What's the key to teaching someone to use their whole body?
You got to start where they're at. I've had to work with people to get them to understand that they have glutes again and how to use them. If you're trying to run and your posture is not engaged, then you won't be using those muscles either. You've actually got to learn the skill of moving.
You got to take care of the fundamental functional movements before we move on to the mind and try to access super flow state. You've got it all working pretty good and they're on their way. And what's next?
Breathing diaphragmatically, keep regulated and calm, and keep their mind focused on the present moment. It's just deliberate practice. It's a conscious process.
That's interesting.
You're retraining your nervous system to use your body in a way that's different to what you were using. Most people run using their legs, but your legs aren't necessarily the most powerful piece of you when it comes to running.
It doesn't have to be overwhelming. It can be really simple, right?
So what I tell people is...
Welcome to the Mark Divine Show. I'm your host, Mark Divine. Super stoked to have you here. Now, if you're ready to grow and push limits and lead with higher purpose, then guess what? You're in the right place. The show is dedicated to helping you lead with courage, resilience, and deep awareness. Excited to have my guest today, Mr. Sam Stow, all the way from Brisbane. Is that right?
Sunshine Coast.
Sunshine Coast.
Close enough.
Close. Sam's the founder of Pop Running. He's the author of Pop Running, Engineering Flow State. He's the mind also behind what's called the Functional Step Method, which helps runners at all levels move pain-free and with purpose. Sam's approach blends breathwork, biomechanics, and mindfulness to turn running into a joyful and sustainable flow experience, which sounds like fun to me. I actually think I know a little bit about that.
I'm sure you do.
Experimented with a lot of that, through my life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have some real interesting overlaps. Once again, thanks for being here in person. I mean, it is a big deal to come all that way. So.
Yeah, I mean, I like this part of the world, so it's not really a hardship to be here.
Yeah. You used to live in Solana Beach, you said?
No, I used to work for a company based here.
Oh, they're based
Yeah,
there.
so I've been here before, and I used to live in San Francisco.
Got it.
Yeah, so I'm familiar with the area.
Is it easier for you to travel to the west coast of America?
Yeah.
From Australia?
Yeah, it's further to come to the East Coast,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
But you have a pretty significant time difference, don't you?
Yeah, it's so significant that you're like a day behind, but it's 17 hours or something.
So you make it up when you go home. It's like you get a gift of an extra day, right?
That coming this way, I get the extra day. Going back, I lose a day.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's just time.
So tell me, when did you start running?
I started running in around 2000. Well, if you discount my childhood, and obviously I've been running the whole time, and I played sport when I was in school and all that stuff, did some 400 meters and things. But I started taking, endurance running as a sport more seriously in like 2003.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's your definition of endurance running in terms of like distances?
Well, at that point in time, I was doing triathlons. Well, I kind of fell into triathlons because I actually just started doing 3 different disciplines at the same time. So open water swimming, bit of trail running, and endurance cycling. And then I'd just gone, well, I'm doing all 3. I might as well do triathlons. And joined a triathlon squad and started training with them. So, my first triathlon race, I only raced 5 kilometers in the run. So not very far. So, but you do more running than that, obviously, in training. So,
right.
Yeah.
And your early experiences running.
Yeah.
Injuries, suffering
absolutely. 100%. Yeah. I was good in triathlon. It was on the road. It was straight line.
Yeah.
And I was young and fit. That went pretty well. But then I got into adventure racing a couple years later.
A lot of friends from the teams in that.
Yeah.
In fact, a friend of mine actually started an entire series called Beast of the East.
Oh, wow. I haven't heard that one.
Mand. But the main guy in adventure racing was the guy who started the Echo Challenge.
Oh, nice.
Who was also behind the TV show Survivor.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful.
Mark Burnett.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, he's pretty ruthless.
Uh-huh.
And so he would schedule all of his Echo Challenges on the same weekend as my friend would schedule his Beast of the East races. Pretty much put him out of business.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Eco Challenge was big, wasn't it?
It was, they brought that out of, I think the whole adventure racing idea came out of Europe. It came out of England, actually, I think.
Oh, right.
SES guys had created something.
Mm.
So he just adapted it over here. He was the first one.
Mm.
And that's kind of been replaced with obstacle racing.
Yeah, OCR.
Gamified.
And then you've got High Rocks now. You know, people are always coming up with new disciplines.
Right.
Yeah, but I think the thing about adventure racing is it's very wild. And that's great, but at the same time, it's also very logistically difficult.
Yeah. And it's all team-based.
Yeah.
And you're only as fast as your slowest member, or only as skilled as
and
your most skillful.
that can be very challenging. You know, I was lucky with the teams I raced in. I got on well with everybody. They're all pretty laid back, and you know. But if you get a teammate that's kind of getting a little bit frustrated, you know, if there's any kind of like
friction,
poor spirits, then it can be pretty hard, you know, to deal with. So yeah, especially under that level of duress for that level of time as well. Yeah.
So I'll tell you my story with running. Of course, I loved being outside and running up and down trails in the Adirondacks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I was used to doing like verticals, like just cruising up a trail like a billy goat. And I actually had a friend who we would do this together, and we would wrap our ankles and put knee pads on at the top, and we would play tag on the way down. It was pretty deadly, right?
Yeah, wow.
We were just flying over boulders and doing flips and getting all banged up. We were invincible.
Yeah.
At 18 to 20. Whatever.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you're that age, you don't even think, you know?
And you're so rubbery and so pliable.
Yeah.
I twisted my ankles quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then when I was at Colgate, I was a swimmer, but I also kept on running. And so I turned that into triathlon as well. I actually won a couple sprint triathlons up there. And then I did really well in a Tin Man, which was a half Ironman.
Oh, yeah.
And then I got into karate and the martial arts. So I was running in the morning, going to the gym, and then I was doing martial arts in the evening. And I didn't really have time. I was getting my MBA, CPA. I was just sort of super busy. So I just kind of dropped off of the triathlons. But the reason I'm telling you this is because this is where I was introduced to breathwork and meditation. And so what I found is about 2 years into my karate career, my martial arts career, that my running started to become more pleasurable. And I would synchronize my steps with my breath. And then I would use a mantra. And so here I was, and these things were not known to me before I started the martial arts, right? Which has a lot of things that are now pretty common, like breathwork, mindfulness, concentration, other mental training, integration training. That was a huge insight for me, because 2 years later, when I found myself at SEAL training, you know, the psychological pressure, and they use running as one of the tools to weed people out. And they'll do it by, I mean, you have no idea sometimes how far you're going to running, how fast you have to run. Right? They'll play a lot of mental games with you. Like give you the impression that you're done when you're not done. Right? They really mess with your head.
Yeah.
And by then I had learned a few key things. One is in a competitive setting, it's easier to stay up than it is to catch up.
Okay.
Because if you get behind the power curve, then your whole body and mind are working against you. You have to work extra hard, expend way more energy to try to get back up. And so I would develop strategies to make sure that I could stay up at the top of the class, and knowing full well that the instructors would never be able to maintain the pace that they were pretending to maintain forever, right? I also learned and employed what I call the big four skills, and that was my battleground to test it. So the first skill is controlling the breath. So I did every 3 steps was an inhale, and the next 3 were an exhale. So I was using tactical breathing, or basically some sort of deep diaphragmatic breathing, no matter how fast I was running. I learned to also slowly, it took a while, but always be breathing through my nose, right? Never through my mouth while I was running. So it was inhale through the nose, 3 steps, exhale through the nose, 3 steps. And then the second one was the mantra. So the second skill is like maintaining a positive mindset. And so I would say my mantra. My mantra was, I'm feeling good, I'm looking good, I ought to be in Hollywood. I'm feeling good, I'm looking good, ought to be in. So it was inhale, 1, 2, 3, I'm feeling good, looking good, ought to be in Hollywood. Exhale, 1, 2, 3. And then the third skill was imagery, right? So instead of me like having this mindset that I was suffering, I would always like imagine this just being, like imagine what I could be doing in spite of this, right? I could be back in New York, sitting at a desk in a cubicle, crunching numbers, right? There could always be worse. And so I would use these little games in my head to be like, oh, actually, this is pretty damn cool. I'm getting paid to do this. I'm going to be a Navy SEAL someday. And all of that really uplifts your spirits, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
imagery and mantra are really powerful tools. And then the fourth thing I learned was never really, don't be overwhelmed by the totality of what you've taken on. You know, like, let's say you take on a 50-mile race. It's way better to do 51-mile races in your head than it is to do 50 miles, right? You just crush your spirit. So to chunk it down into small bite sizes.
Yeah, definitely.
And by practicing those day in and day out at Buds, within a few weeks of deploying those technologies, I literally would be able to kind of drop into a flow state within a couple of minutes running.
Yeah, beautiful.
So I wanted to share that with you. That's kind of my experience. I
Yeah,
wanna
that's
hear
amazing. Yeah,
kind
absolutely.
of your experience in terms of like, just trial and erroring. Just coming up and testing different things that you've been able to test and look at and try to evolve through pop running.
Yeah. I've absolutely evolved a lot, Every time I've gotten an injury, I've had to figure out why, So my first injury I got was 2005, 2006 in adventure racing was ITB problems. And I didn't really get to the root cause of why I had that at the time because the people who I saw, they didn't really know. But they got me to get stronger, which helped, and it kind of got rid of it. But it sort of came back later. And it was only took me probably until around 2009, I found my first guidance in terms of running, which was chi running. Mm-hmm. And that helped me a lot, made me more efficient, got a lot faster. And so I stuck with that for quite some time. But then I kind of around 2017, I started taking running a lot more seriously again, got into ultra running. And I started trail running, and I was like, this is really painful again. Running up really steep hills is really hard.
Really unstable ground.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, well, what I'm doing isn't working enough. I need to figure something out here. I actually started doing a lot of barefoot running. And then when I did that, I realized I found
another.
Use
like the Vibram toes or just barefoot?
I did that and barefoot. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I found I learned to use, it took actually a couple of years before I learned how to use my glutes and use my body fully effectively. Right. And so that was the next thing. And then, another injury would pop up and I'd go, I need to change this, So I got all these different injuries. And then when I got into more ultra running, longer distances, 100Ks plus, then I also learned from a friend who's a breath coach instructor about breathing. And I started doing what you were saying about the nasal breathing and seeing the benefits of that, not just from the mental state thing, which it is really effective for mental state, but it's also really effective physiologically to lower your heart rate, right. Keep you more calm and focused. You can be more, the important thing is to be able to be relaxed,
right.
Because if you're relaxed, you can be efficient.
That's right.
So that was really powerful. And then I got into meditation because of poor sleep. I've got an overactive mind and I'd get a lot of insomnia. So I got
Calm.
One of those apps,
app.
Headspace actually.
Headspace.
Yeah, and used some of their meditations and then got more and more into meditation, started doing Wim Hof breathing, really like that. So then I applied that sort of mentality to running long distances because when you're out in nature, you just got to be calm.
Right.
You can't really, as you said, you can't just go, I'm going to run 40, 50 kilometers right now. I don't even try and break it down. I'm just running, just try and be present.
Right. I think that you're right. Being really calm and relaxed allows you to retain energy and actually then recruit energy while you're doing the race. And my example for that is Hell Week, right? And Hell Week is 6 days, nonstop.
Yeah.
Imagine running a race where you just don't stop for 6 days. You're always running. You're always moving. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
Except we do a lot of different activities.
Yeah.
No sleep. Because I had these skills, what I found was after 2 days, when you would expect my body to be getting weaker, and a lot of my fellow students were getting weaker and breaking and getting injured, I was actually getting stronger.
Yeah, amazing.
And I was building, by the day 3, I started to build muscle mass during Hell Week.
Yeah, wow.
Completely counterintuitive. Of course, we had a lot of food to eat, so that helped.
Yeah.
But I think it was largely because I was regulating my nervous system through my breath and my mindset. And so I was calm. And any moment that we had downtime, I was able to receive energy, take energy back in. And anytime we put out hardcore, I was using a lot less energy than my teammates. And so my body mind, once it adapted, actually grew stronger.
Yeah. Well, I think the important thing is like, if you're in a stressed state, which your teammates probably were.
That's right.
Yeah, then the body is in that like sympathetic nervous system. And in that type, it's like survival mode.
That's right.
So it's not able to really regenerate.
Right.
You know, it's kind of like I'm running away, I'm in fear. I need to just survive. But if you're able to kind of regulate yourself and get into that parasympathetic state, your digestion system works, you know, everything can work. And you can get into that regenerative aspect that you just mentioned.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So can you just describe, let's say a listener's like, this is really interesting. I'm curious, like, what does it look like in terms of just my process for, once I start running the race, and maybe a little bit longer into the race, maybe toward the end of the race, like what does it look like in your mind and with your breathing? And like, how do you, if you were to coach someone, how do you together?
Well, I always start with people which are teaching them how to move. That's my fundamental.
Functional movement.
Yeah, like how to run and using your whole body.
I see.
Because, you know, most people run using their legs.
Right.
But your legs aren't necessarily the most powerful piece of you when it comes to running. Like your trunk and your core and your glutes, this whole body moves. And if you get the whole body to move, then you get a lot more power. You know, you think about like a fish. And like the way a fish moves, it swims by wiggling its body and the tail moves, right?
Yeah, so he's not wiggling his tail.
Yeah.
Really, it's wiggling
no, it's wiggling its body and the tail moves. So I think that running is the same. Like you move your body and your legs move rather than you use your legs. So I think the reason that
That's
we have...
That's the first time I ever heard that. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Does pose running propose that? Because pose running doesn't really use the body. They just say fall forward.
Yeah, it doesn't really.
Let gravity kind
That's the difference, because pose and chi running are very similar.
Yeah.
And so pose and chi running both talk about using forward lean. And good posture, which is really good. But they talk about just pick your feet up and fall forward, which is kind of missing half of the picture, which is the propulsion from the backside.
Right.
And that's the big challenge that I think that we have in society. So I was going to give you this example. I actually went to Balboa Park for a run on Saturday, and the weekend in San Diego, obviously they have fun runs. It seems like they have them all the time. There was another one on Sunday. And so there was like an 8-mile run through Balboa Park, and I was accidentally in the middle of it for a bit while I was looking for trails. And so I saw a lot of people running by.
Yeah.
And I was
always evaluating their
well, I just stood there and watched all these people running by. And I can tell you, I watched hundreds of people, and I reckon I saw a handful of people that I thought were using their glutes, and almost everybody else had like a lot of sort of forward hunch, you know, that sort of forward leaned over posture, and a lot of dragging their feet and no backside propulsion at all. And so I think that like the challenge we have, which is what I'm trying to help people understand, is like we're not connected to our whole body. So when we go to run, we're not using our body the way our body is kind of meant to be used to run. So we're like, you know, I heard you guys talking on with Brad Kern. You had Brad Kern on recent podcast about how damaging running is.
It's because we're using dysfunctional form and you're not using all your muscles.
We are. It's 100% damaging if you're not using your body properly.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that's always what I do to start, is help people move properly.
And what's the key to teaching someone to use their whole body? Like,
you got to start where they're at.
Because I'm envisioning like a tank.
Yeah, well, you don't want to be tense, that's for sure. But you've got to start with where they're at. It's like, so, okay, I give you this, right? There's I see three distinct pieces. So the first piece is like glute awareness, right? So you may have heard the term gluteal amnesia before.
When you're not aware of your glutes.
Yeah, you're not even aware that you have glutes. You can't use them, right?
That's interesting.
You got to get the glutes online in terms of like,
does that come from just sitting down too much?
It just comes from like, if I'm sitting here and my core's not engaged, which actually it's probably not, then my core's not engaged, my glutes aren't online, like everything's just like sedentary. So you're starting to lose that awareness, you know? Like you start as a kid and you've got full body awareness, you're running around, you look great. Like I've got a 4-year-old, she looks amazing when she runs, you know? But yeah, like as you spend time, you know, sitting on a couch, sitting at a desk, all these different things, if you're not using your whole body, you know, because a lot of people are sedentary for a long time, then the awareness of those muscles just goes away and you forget how to use them at all.
Interesting.
And so some people are in that position, you know. So I've had to work with people to get them to understand that they have glutes again and how to use them. So that's number one. Number two is posture. Yeah. So if you're trying to run and your posture is not engaged, then you won't be using those muscles either. So it's kind of like a consequence of that too. But you can have glutes that work, but have poor posture.
Engaged, how?
Yeah, so basically just being tall, like erect spine.
Like a normal, like you would think a good posture was
good
you want
posture,
to run with that posture?
Yeah, 100%. Okay. Yeah, because if you like, you know, you can think about active sitting. So like this is active sitting where my core is sort of engaged and my posture is tall. Mm-hmm. That way everything can be kind of turned on. But if you're kind of slouched like this, then your posture is not engaged. So when you're trying to run, you're not going to use those muscles because they're not working.
Got it.
So that's number two.
It seems like pose running then is proposing, at least the way a lot of people do it. They do it kind of like hunched over as opposed to like good posture, just leaning forward.
Yeah, some people take the leaning forward bit a little bit wrong, right? So you can kind of lean forward from your hips and you kind of bent forward.
Yeah,
which is not going to actually work. You know, you want to have like a straight line.
Right.
But then, so the third piece is like your actual sort of biomechanical movement, right? And so that's where you've actually got to learn the skill of moving like in a whole holistic way. So you won't accidentally do it. You know, like I was running from 2003 to 2019, so 16 years before I figured out how to use my glutes. So I was running really well. Like I ran a 1:13 half marathon before I figured it out, right. You know, so there was nothing wrong with my performance. Like it was pretty good.
But that'll lead to an injury and you're also leaving energy on the table.
Yeah, you just get sorer. You know, for me, I didn't get like chronically injured, but I didn't feel fantastic afterwards.
Right.
And my performance was suboptimal. You know, like after I figured out how to fix my glutes, my performance improved. Like, so my half marathon time went down to 1:12. You know, my 10K time went down to 32 from 34. You know, my marathon time, I dropped another minute off. Like but I also felt a lot better afterwards.
Right.
Yeah. So, and that means I can run like 100 kilometers and still feel good at the end.
What do you recommend for foot placement?
That's the challenge that we've got with, like, everyone wants quick fixes.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to go, oh, just fix this bit and you'll be fine, you know.
Just buy these shoes and they'll...
Yeah, like I think it's like a bit of a detour that's not really productive. You know, focusing on foot placement it's an outcome. It's not a fix in itself. You know, and a lot of people will focus on forefoot running, which is bad in my opinion. Because if you run on your forefoot, like deliberately, then you're going to overload your lower legs rather than your upper legs. Right. And that's where a lot of people got Achilles problems, plantar fascial problems, you know, calf problems, and all that. Like people get chronic problems there, and it's usually a consequence of forefoot running. So it's more about...
Doesn't Pose and Cheese running propose that?
I don't actually know that they do specifically.
Front to back instead of back to front.
Yes. So from an optimal perspective, like you do want to land on the forefoot, but you want to get your whole foot on the ground.
As fast as possible.
Yeah. Because...
Oh, I see. When you said forefoot, not engaging the heel?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Well, most people will, when they take it that literally, you know, they'll be like, I've got to run purely on my forefoot.
They're like...
and then push, and also pushing off the forefoot. And that's the part that's bad. So I'm not saying that it's bad to land on your forefoot like I do. You know, everybody, you know, in an ideal world, right? So if say you're on a box and you jump off a box, you're going to land on the front of your foot, because if you land on your heels, it's going to hurt like hell. So no one would do that. So it's the same with running. You want to land in a way that lets your whole foot work like the way a foot works, right? Which is like spreading the load gradually. Right. But then you actually want to use the rest of your body to also absorb the load.
Right.
And actually, like I sort of talk about the body being a spring. So then it's actually like coiling up as you land, and then you can push back off again using like hip extension, which is your glutes. So that's
like a piston.
Yeah. So, but I think it takes a little bit of training for someone to understand how to do that, especially if they're a long way off that, you know. So I've had elites, a handful of elites that I've taught are already amazing, do you know? Like I remember one session I did with one elite triathlete, and I showed her and she's like, well, that's exactly what I do. I'm like, oh, well, you're good then, you know. But that's about the only time that's happened, do you know? Like if I get a regular person and I show them what to do, they're like, oh man, that feels so awkward, do you know? And I'm like, yeah, so you've got to practice until it doesn't feel awkward.
Right.
Yeah.
So that makes sense, because like when we have our training, I always say, I mean, this is for like life coaching, executive coaching. It's very similar. So you got to take care of like the fundamental functional movements and your physical health first before we move on to the mind and the, you know, try to access some super flow state. And for some people that is relatively easy if they're athletes. They just need some fine tuning. But for a lot of people, because our culture is just so far off base, I mean, it could take a year of work to get them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, especially if you're talking about
balance,
like deeply ingrained sort of psychological things.
Right.
Yeah, that's huge.
So let's say you're working with a client now and you've got them these three things, right? You've got it all working pretty good and they're on their way. Then what's next?
Yeah, so then 100% it's like about, you know, staying calm and present in the face of a challenge, you know? So it's everything that you were talking about with your breathing. Like if people did that, you know, like breathe really well, you know, diaphragmatically, keep themselves regulated and calm, and keep their mind focused on the present moment and not, you know, a million other things, you know, like the weather, you know, how many other runners there are around them, like where's the next checkpoint, you know, is there like itching going on, like chafing, you know, all these things, you know, they can all be distractions that can take your mind out of, you know, finding that sort of present moment just state. And yeah, like the more you can keep yourself present and calm, then the more you can enjoy like the whole experience. And I've definitely had races that I felt that, and it's more and more the more intentional I am about it. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So declutter your environment, get your mind focused on just what's right in front of you, the most important task.
Yeah.
It's similar to the micro goal concept that I talked about.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit more, like, because the intentionality, we're thinking like how we would approach a SEAL mission, like we would just literally go into seclusion, you know, lock doors, just get all the distractions, take care of all your family business, take care of it, and it doesn't distract you. And you just radically focus on the mission, and then you chunk it down and just focus on your part of the mission.
Yeah.
And then you go execute.
Yeah, and the more aware you are, the more you're able to respond, you know, because if you're distracted, like it's happened to me sometimes, like I'm running and I look at my watch and then I'll trip over because I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing.
That's funny.
So, you know, you want to make sure that you're actually aware of what you're doing, and then you can be responsive to anything that comes up.
Right.
Yeah.
So you get the breathing dialed in.
Yeah.
Nostril breathing. That's hard for some people.
Yeah.
Especially with running, because it just feels like it's impossible.
Well, it is. And I think that all comes also to the approach. So a lot of people, or as I said, people are in a rush. They want to fix everything straight away.
Right.
And your body doesn't work that way. Yeah. So, you know, the movement takes a little bit of time. It takes less time than it would take to do a strength program or the other types of things. It's actually, but it requires a different type of mindset. It's kind of just deliberate practice. It's a conscious process.
Right.
You know, you're retraining your nervous system to use your body in a way that's different to what you were using it. So the breathing side of things, it's not actually the movement of breathing that you're training. It's actually your biochemical efficiency that you train. So you're actually wanting
training the nervous system.
Yeah, I actually don't know what the specific is, but it's basically, so there's this idea in Oxygen Advantage, they have a test called BOLT test, basic oxygen level, which means that you are seeing how much carbon dioxide you can tolerate in your blood. So you hold your breath and see how long it takes before you need to breathe. And you can train that so that you get better at it. And then the better at that you get, the longer you can nasal breathe at higher intensities.
Right.
So if you, like, they've talked about this, like you can do like 6 months of intensive breathing control, and you can get to the point where you can almost run at like almost the highest possible intensity for a duration without needing to breathe through your mouth.
Right.
Yeah. So that's like what the goal is. But because if you say to someone, just breathe through your nose, and they don't adjust their intensity, they'll be like, that's impossible. I can't do that. But you've got to say, okay, you've got to slow down, learn to breathe through your nose, stay calm, and don't worry about how fast you're going, all that jazz, and just learn to be better at it over time, and then your ability to do it will breathe better over different intensities. Right. So yeah, it's a process.
At SEAL Fit Training Center, we used to have guys train with water in their mouth.
Yes, yeah, 100%. I've done that too. Yeah, it's like an old Greek thing, I think, like Sparta.
The Spartans did it.
Yeah, I love it. It's a really good, I think that would appeal to the people who like those kinds of challenges, but it's effective because literally you can't open your mouth. So you have to moderate your intensity instead of breathe through your mouth. Yeah, so it's a good idea.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you talked about attention and intention.
Yeah.
Right? These are things that are trained through mindfulness. So do you also recommend a daily practice of mindfulness or some sort of meditative process?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or do you just have them do it while they're running and try to stay
I don't specifically tell people to meditate all the time. I probably should do more. I know that it would benefit me, but I use running as meditation, do you know? So I don't try to distract myself all the time. I like to just be quiet and, see what's going on around me. But I think of running as like an active meditation. So if you, the same way you can be intentional about your movement and your breathing, you can be intentional about your thinking. And I know you've talked about it a lot, like the whole idea of metacognition and being aware of what you're thinking and aware of how that affects you physically, So they're all linked. And I think, breathing is like really the interesting one because it's linking the sort of physical to the mental. Because the breathing can change your state and then that can change the way you think and it changes how you feel. And then if you're more relaxed, then you can be more efficient. So that all of those three things are sort of like circular in terms of how they work together. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. So yeah, I like to use running as an active meditation and I just like to zone out and, it's how I always had my best ideas is go out for a run.
I think that works with monostructural sports like running and swimming.
Yes.
Long distance. Where once you've kind of mastered these skills, you can literally get into this incredible state where you're still operating effectively and efficiently, but your mind is clear. It's almost like the same as martial arts training in a sense, where you do the repetitive, dances or katas over time. And you do them 1,000 times, and you can do it without thinking. Yeah. And so now you're moving without thinking. Yeah. And what's replaced that is presence. And the masters, that's how they're so good. Like they're so present in a fight or a potential conflict that, they can anticipate what's going to happen. They're just so far ahead because they're acting spontaneously.
Yeah. Well, you hear about like experts in any field when they're under like an intense like pressure situation where they have to be really skillful. You hear people talking about time slowing down. Right. So but their ability to process is actually like so fast that it feels like time slowing down because they're able to make like all these tiny little decisions and take in all this information and then choose the right action in like fractions of a second. Right.
Well, and that works running too, right? So if you're out for a 50-mile race and if you're tracking every second, and every 10 feet, it's going to be a very long day. Yeah, right?
Absolutely.
But we experienced this with our Kokoro, which is a 50-hour nonstop training where people lose themselves for about 6 or 7 hours on the final evening.
Oh, nice.
And it's just it's a crazy flow state experience. And when they come out of it, it feels like it was only like 45 minutes. Yeah. And they have all this energy. Yeah, yeah. And so I'm sure that happens to you when you go on long runs, right? So the time suddenly contracts, and you have all this kind of feeling of bliss and energy and
it's interesting.
Even,
it's interesting how time can go either way.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
We were talking about it earlier, Kath and I. Time is really a matter of perception. Your
Yeah.
consciousness,
100%.
you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think whether you're using something like running or martial arts or just seated meditation, and you can get into the contextual awareness aspect of how your mind works, which is where metacognition comes from, but it's beyond that. So we're talking about awareness versus the mind thinking about itself.
Yep.
And in that pure awareness kind of aspect of mental functioning, it's not time bound, and also it doesn't adhere to the rules of like space either. So you could say it's timeless and spaceless.
Yeah.
Which is why oftentimes flow state experiences are also experiences almost like out of body experiences.
Yeah.
Or like your mind is completely around and surrounding your body, but it's not in your body too.
Yeah. I've definitely, like, I was talking to a friend and he said that he's had experiences where he's kind of looking at himself while he's running. Yeah. So he's not necessarily like consciously in his body.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you can learn to operate from that kind of timeless contextual awareness while also maintaining functionality, which is what running martial arts helps us do, because you're doing something, but you've done it so many times before that you don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
It gets harder when you're doing like coding or, but I imagine coders
I've done it
too.
with coding 100%. I've done that many times.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, wow, look at that. That just kind of
I'll
came
sit
through
there
me.
and code for 5 hours and it won't feel like 5 hours at all. And then I'll be like, oh crap, I got to go to the toilet.
Yeah. I was there when I write. Like I can go for hours and hours and hours and I'm actually quite surprised at what comes out sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm not thinking about it. It's just, it's kind of like flowing through.
Yeah. I've definitely read, authors talk about that. They're like, I didn't write this book. This book just came to me and was written.
So people that happens, it's either trained or their brain was naturally wired that way. Like Beethoven, he just one day wrote down the Ninth Symphony. He didn't pore over it for months and years. It's like, there it was.
Yeah. Well, I think, you talk about intuition, and I think that's what it often is, like this idea of being connected to more than you and being like able to let that happen without consciously interfering, by applying conscious thought and going, oh, I need to do X, Y, Z. If you can kind of just be more present and just get into that state where like anything can just come to you and you just let it go.
Let it flow,
then that's what I see it as.
What I love about your book, Pop Running, your work, obviously dovetails with what we're doing, but people are really, their perception is that they're really busy.
Yes, 100%.
And they don't have time to add one more thing, and so you tell them that you should meditate and you should do a breathing practice every day, and right? And they're all like, oh, I don't have time, and you need to eat, get healthier by eating better and do this diet or that diet, and they're overwhelmed, right?
Oh, always, yeah.
And it doesn't have to be overwhelming; it can be really simple, right?
Easy.
Once you begin to deploy these skills, like all of a sudden what you used to think of, and we say this in SEAL Fit, like it's joyful, the working out, the training we do, even though it's hard, eventually it becomes so rewarding that you can't imagine not doing it.
Yeah.
So whether you're walking or running, by stacking these practices, right? Learning how to do it functionally, taking your time, taking the competition out of it, stop comparing yourself to others. So setting your intention and your attention, just focus on the task, breathe through your nose, and whether it's a mantra or just paying attention to really what's right in front of you.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you're going to be way more effective and efficient.
Yeah.
And all that weight you were trying to lose will just start probably washing off you because you're breathing better primarily. Your body is resetting. You're digesting better, sleeping better.
Yeah. I think one thing is the reason I ended up doing what I'm doing now is I did a case study where I was teaching a whole bunch of people to run online, and people started to tell me that their posture felt better, right? And they were walking around better. I'm like, oh, cool. And then my dad asked me if I could teach him, and he's not a runner at all, but he had hurt himself by pushing a boat and he tore his calf muscle. And I looked at him running walking, and I had videos of him walking, and it's terrible. His posture's completely off, completely disengaged, and he's not using he's doing everything that I was talking about, I saw in Balboa Park. And just giving people the things to do that they can do anytime, because they're always moving around. So just going, okay, you got to be more aware of your posture, be more upright. You got to get your core engaged. You got to feel your glutes. You got to drive rather than just swing. All of these things, they can do that whenever they want.
Right.
So it doesn't require any more time. So what I tell people is like
every time you walk somewhere, you can practice your posture, practice your breathing.
So just like do some activations like morning and evening to bring that front and center in your mind, and start teaching your brain, because it's repetition that gets you get that awareness. And then just that awareness and that repetition will just start to blend in. So you don't even need to necessarily give it time. You just give it awareness. That's right. Yeah, and then same goes on with the breathing and the thinking. That's right.
Yeah, we have a saying at SealFit: everything is practice. Everything you do, right? You can either be practicing a poor, dysfunctional movement pattern. Well, if you're walking, a block or two, or even just around the house, why not practice functional movement patterns?
Or even if you're standing in a queue.
You're going to be breathing, so either you're practicing poor and ineffective sympathetic breathing pattern, why not practice, right, a nice nostril, diaphragmatic parasympathetic breathing pattern?
It's funny.
So everything is practice.
I was on a podcast the other day, and he was, I got them to see if they could activate their glutes, and he's like, "Oh, one of my glutes doesn't work." And then like 20 minutes later, he's like, "I've been practicing activating my glute for the last 20 minutes," and I'm like, "Well, that's great, like you're talking to us and having a conversation. You're still already doing something." So
practice. All you talk. That's cool.
Yeah.
So, what have you learned? With this work that you're doing, both with yourself and with clients, how has that affected the rest of your life? Like how you see the world, how you relate to other people?
Well, I've had to do a lot of work on myself. So I was a software engineer until March last year. And I had already started working on myself. And I had gotten to the point in this job where I was like, I don't enjoy this job anymore. And like, this is not fulfilling. I don't feel like I have, because I was working in Australia remotely. No one else in my company was in Australia. So it was very isolating. Yeah, and I was like, I'm just not enjoying this. And I was enjoying what I was doing with the running and coaching and teaching people how to move and, all that stuff. So I kind of said to my boss, I said, I'm not really enjoying this. I actually was using their app to help try and create content around running training. Mm-hmm. And I was seeing if I could create a way of doing that with them. And they're like, nah. So I kind of just said, okay, well, we have to part ways. And then I was like, well, I don't want to do anything else. Like, I don't want to be a software engineer. Like, it was fine. I enjoyed coding, but it wasn't as fulfilling as what I do with the coaching.
It wasn't your calling.
Yeah, exactly. And I know, you talk about ikigai. Yeah. And I love how you talk about those sort of 4 concentric circles. Mm. And I feel like the running training and the movement training that I do hits that for me. Right. Like, it's my passion. I'm quite good at it. Mm-hmm. The world needs it. Mm-hmm. And if I do well,
you can get paid.
Yeah, if I do well with the business, I can get paid for it. So I basically had to apply myself to figuring out how to make it work as a business. And so first I created a program and started to sell that to people, and that worked. But I found I had a lot of like problems internally in my body, in my mind, going, I don't know if I can do this, I don't feel like I'm doing a good job. I don't know if I can handle more people, all that stuff, like all these doubts. And so I actually worked with...
That's the hero's journey.
Yeah.
So you stepped out and sure enough, you got hit with the doubt.
So I did a crap ton of meditation and I worked with like spiritual coach and stuff and worked through all of those things. Nice. And after I did a lot and I came out the other side and I'm like, holy shit, like I see the world differently, mm-hmm. Like you realize it's not all about you at all. And you can see what's going on with other people and how they see things. Right. And you learn to just be okay with it all, Right.
And you see how much your mind trapped you in a limited state.
Yeah. And I see that a lot with obviously clients, and I've got to try and work them through applying it, So another concept that I really like is the idea of beginner's mind, you know, and especially when I'm working with an adult, you know, I work with guys in their 70s and in their 60s and whatnot, and you're teaching them how to move. They're like, well, I'm 70 years old and you're teaching me how to move. But I'm like, you just have to have a beginner's mind, just embrace the idea that you don't know anything and that you're just practicing for the first time, and be okay with that. Because the thing that some people get really hard on themselves, they're like, I should be able to do this. I'm like, you know, you've never done this before, like, because you've been moving in a very different way for a very long time, you know?
Right.
So yeah, you have to kind of be okay with being a complete novice and just practice until you get better, and then just recognize the progress that you're making rather than being critical about how you're not doing it perfectly, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Beginner's mind is so important.
Yeah.
And that's a practice too, because we tend to cling to our knowledge and our patterns and ways of doing things. So it takes courage to let go and clear it out.
It's like
empty the cup, so to speak.
Yeah, I see it as you know how, like, it's not very nice, but you can get a frog and you put it in cool water in a pot, and then you turn the heat up, and it doesn't realize that the heat's getting up until it's cooked, you know? Yeah. And I feel like that's what happens with people with movement, is that they get worse and worse in their movement over time, but they don't realize it.
That's right.
And then they just sort of come to accept that they've got these pains in their body, and they think it's related
about our culture in general. People are cooked in mediocrity.
Right?
Yeah. And because they haven't learned to question everything that they're taught, whether it's from media or from academics or whatever.
Yeah.
So they believe it and they buy into it. Next thing you know, right, they're trapped in this limited body with limited thinking. Yeah. So we got to help them break free of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. You're using the body and running.
Yeah, and it makes a huge difference very quickly, you know. So I have a client that I saw here, Patrick, he's in San Diego, and I did a session with him online in Australia, and then I met him on the weekend. And I had done that one session with him and given him the drills to practice, and we'd been coaching him for, I don't know, a week or two. And he said, like, he went to the lake that he goes and runs around and does like a 6-mile run, and he just was focusing on what I told him, you know, and that's one of the good things, is it becomes a practice, you know, you rather than focusing on anything else, you're just focusing on what you're doing. And he was like focusing on good posture and getting his glutes working and blah, blah, blah. And then he's just like, oh, this feels good. He's like, I'm enjoying this. And then at the end of the run, he has to run up a hill, and he's like, I feel good, I'm going to run this. And he said normally he would like be exhausted and he'd have to walk up that hill. And then his wife was like, I love you, because he wasn't sore like he normally saw the next day. And like, you know, that's just a conscious process that he's applied over a week or two that's had that result. So as soon as you actually become aware that there's something else that you can do and apply yourself to doing it, you can step away from that problem that you think has been like a permanent fixture in your life, you know, in a relatively short period of time. So.
Right. That's cool. So you do one-on-one coaching. Do you do like group clinics or anything like that? Or
I think so. I've been doing a lot of one-on-one sessions lately, but I'm thinking about spreading that into more group stuff because I have limited time. Right. But I'm also training others. I'm going to train other trainers so that I don't have to do all the training myself.
Yep, sounds like a business model.
Yeah, exactly.
One-on-one coaching.
My time is unscalable.
Group clinics and certified coaches.
So yeah, 100%.
Where can people learn more about you and get your book?
So my website is poprunning.com.au. POP running is all one word, .com.au. It's an Australian site. /book. If you go to /book, then that's when they get the book. But if you go to the homepage, you'll see it. And then my Instagram, sam.poprunning. That's my handle. So a lot of people really like the content that they see on there, get a lot of value out of just the content, which is great. But if you buy, they've got a bundle for my book, which is like $5, and you get a glute activation workshop with it.
Nice.
So that one helps you understand, like, are your glutes actually working? And surprisingly, I think a good percentage of people it's not. But it's not everyone, so that's good, you know. But it at least kind of give you that first point of calls. You're like, okay, where do I need to start? Yeah. You know? Yeah. So that's probably the main things.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think you're inspiring me to get back running again.
Yeah, well, you're welcome to have a crack at
my CrossFit days. I kind of stopped doing it because we were running in like 200-meter sprints, 400-meter sprinents.
Yeah.
Always carrying something heavy.
So, I did want to say, I have many more things I could say, but I really liked your conversation with Brad Kern.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated what he was saying about like that we are meant to move. Definitely. Like we're meant to be moving. And I know my brain works a lot better when I move.
Definitely.
Like if I'm sitting still, I can't do much. More
some
often
of
than
the biggest inventions and best creative thinking comes from people who are walking and talking.
Yeah.
All the great inventors, even Einstein would go out and walk.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that, and I know he was saying like running is not good for you. And I agree that if you consider how most people are moving, running is not
good.
Yeah, that way of running is not good for you. And also the fact that people are always chasing performance and achievements before anything else. They're trying to do that without even taking care of any of the fundamentals. That's not a good approach.
It's such part of our culture. Like for me, I work out just for lifetime health and longevity, but also for joy.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to beat anybody.
Yeah.
Those days are long gone.
Yeah.
But it's such a better orientation.
Yeah.
Have this idea that you're running for joy.
So if you can learn to appreciate the process and allow it the time that it needs and not actually go, I need to run X amount of kilometers or miles, or I need to run this fast or X, Y, Z. And you just go, I'm just going to practice and enjoy moving for a period of time and just take your time, then you can end up achieving way more performance-wise because you won't get injured, you'll recover faster, you'll be more efficient, so you'll be faster. Outcomes take care of themselves.
Right.
If you just focus on like moving better and breathing better and all that, So
I agree
it's a different approach, but it's much more effective.
It's much more of a yin approach, right?
Yeah,
as opposed to the yang approach.
That's why I have that.
Yeah, totally.
I very much embrace that.
I'm 100% with you. Like we're such a yang, action, competitive bias society. And so when it comes to training, if you can approach it from the yin perspective, being receptive and relaxed and playful.
I originally named that book Yin Running, and everyone was like, I don't get it. It was like too woo-woo. And I'm like, okay, I'll change it. They wanted me to call it that. And I'm like, okay, I'm calling it that because it does make sense. But I wanted to call it Yin Running because that's how I see it. But it's internal focus rather than external focus.
Right.
Because that's all we really have control over. So why would you do it any other way?
Well said. Awesome. It's been a great conversation. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks for tuning into the Mark Divine Show, folks. I appreciate you walking this path of leadership, growth, and running with me. If today's episode with Sam inspired you, then please share it with your friends and colleagues. Help spread the word, and also leave a review wherever you listen. It really helps others discover the show and keeps us, relevant, I guess you would say. If you'd like to go deeper on some of the concepts we talked about, please visit Sam's website, poprunning.com.au, or visit unbeatablemind.com to explore how you can work with me directly, coaching, or one of our incredible leadership coaches, or come to one of our other transformation programs. You can also follow me on Instagram at Mark Divine Official for more insights. Until next time, be unbeatable. Hoo-yah.
Hoo-yah. Thanks,
awesome,
Mark.
brother.